7 o'clock-ish. And we call the meeting to order of the October 22nd, 2025 investment zone for meeting.
Yeah.
Hello there.
Funny how you all put big feet
I
different.
know.
It's like church.
Yeah, and I don't believe anyone has signed up for public comments, just confirming that. Okay, thank you. Next item on our agenda is consider approval of minutes for the meeting held on September 24th. Motion by Lester. Second. Any? Not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those same sign. Motion carried. Next item, regular agenda, item number 2, receive current project updates and discuss possible future projects include but not be limited to. Review of current projects under construction, review of projects in design, and a review of future projects. David Patrick.
Thank you, Bob. Good morning, everyone. Got some project updates for you this morning. A couple of videos. So first project is our Outer Loop North Phase 3 project. Here we go. Of course, this is the one that's going from Windland Road over to the I-35 at the Hart Road connection. This project's going really well. We are moving along quite nicely. We do have a change order that'll be coming to you to the board soon. We just developed that, sent that through Public Works and to the contractor. We found, and we feel like, I hate to say this out loud, we feel like we found our last utility conflict. And just so everybody remembers or understands, Moore's Mill was an old county road that the city inherited, and typically when that happens, a lot of times there's lots of things that the city doesn't have knowledge of or it's not in their GIS. So this is not uncommon. It's a Pendleton water line that we found on the west side of the railroad. We've worked through that with Pendleton Water Supply Corporation with where that alignment can change and shift out of our infrastructure conflict. So that's one piece of that change order. The second one is actually part of our right-of-way negotiation with the property owner adjacent to I-35 on Hart Road. There was some electric, it's Lucky's RV, so they had quite a large electric facility that feeds those sites. And the city had negotiated to relocate that in the right-of-way, outside the right-of-way that we purchased. At one time, we were looking for an outside contractor to do that work simply because, big road job, typically not a lot of electric with those guys. The bids that we were getting, we weren't extremely excited about. And so we went to our general contractor, who's Jordan Foster. They gave us a bid that was slightly less than the one that we got from our outside folks. And so that coordination will go a lot better using the same contractor. So we're going to move forward with that rather than going outside. So that's probably coming back in November or December. I don't know if we'll have a November board meeting with Thanksgiving, probably December 10th. So be on the lookout for that. And that's going to be in the neighborhood of $200,000. But video is looking great. As you can see, the bridge is completed. And that is a very significant milestone for us because it gets us mostly out of the BNSF. But the bridge is done from one side to the other. We have an aerial crossing. Most of the retaining wall is coming up in place. All of it on the east side is complete. And the west side is coming up very fast. We do have 2 more elements that we'll have to deal with BNSF on. One is the fencing, the protective fencing that goes over the railroad. And the other one is the underbridge lighting that they require us to have. If you see this project, you'll see in the video, we're on the west side right now. They're going very strong on the west side with drainage fill, and they'll be doing base very soon. We've shifted to the east side where you see topsoil going in. The crushed limestone base is almost complete. We're about ready to start curb and gutter on that side. So it's really going to start looking like a road very, very, very soon. Like I said, with that change order that's coming, this will push this project to August of next year. But looking great out there. Happy to be able to show this video and the progress these guys are making. Next project is one that's in design. It is our Windland Road and Power Drive project. This one is fast track because my good friend Adrian here is doing such a great job of recruiting folks to Temple that we're really having to focus hard on that North Industrial Park. And lots of clients looking Windland and Power. We've already submitted the 30% set on it. And get received comments back. So James, appreciate your team being very quick on that, and getting those back to us. And we will have 60% submitted at the end of this month, beginning of November, and we will keep that project moving forward. Expect by towards the end of the year, we'll have 100% plans and ready to go. And then just looking at what we're actually going to construct based on what we need in funding. The next one is our Old Howard Phase 1 and Phase 2 projects. This is Phase 1, which you can see shifts Old Howard somewhat to the east, gets us out of that curve on the outer loop, which is a great thing for our site distance and connections. And goes up and ties back into the existing alignment of Old Howard Road. Keeping in mind when we go to construction, this is another county road that we might find a few things once we start potholing. Obviously not there yet. This one, we're in great shape, just waiting on funding sources. Design is 100% complete, so as soon as this funding is ready to go, we'll take this one out for bid and get it constructed. Just kind of an idea or a recollection of what that's going to look like, or what our vision for that to look like in this sketch rendering. We are continuing that process of having a very landscaped area, and really looking for that to be a great asset off the island. And that project, from a construction standpoint, we got budgeted at $12.95 million. Connecting to that is Old Howard Road Phase 2. We are heavily in design on this one. So this one will pick up from where Phase 1 stops and to the south, and push over to FM 1237 with that same roadway section connection. And then we will relocate that away off of the BNSF. That's not a great connection right now, where it ties in adjacent to BNSF and the crossing of FM 1237, where it's a at-grade crossing that shifts back over to the west at Sutherland Road. And so we'll have a connection to Sutherland Road along with that same 4-lane intersection tying into FM 1237, and we'll transition that back in. We've got this one, construction phase services currently are unfunded, but we have moved far enough along to get a good OPC on that. We're at 26 million for this one. We've submitted that 30% plan set, and expect to into January submit the 60%. Downtown City Center. Hopefully y'all had an opportunity to take a look at this one. We've completed in punch list phase on the current phase that we're doing. And then the next phase, we've completed the design on it. We've sent that over to Public Works, and James and his team did a great job again, gotten his comments back. So we expect to be going out to bid on that next phase very soon. Next phase will start where we ended on 4th Street, go over to Avenue A, and then half a block each direction. And then a little video update of that as well. From a personal standpoint, living downtown as every day in our business, we are extremely excited about this. This project came out really, really well. RT Schneider and his group did a great job. This makes this downtown very walkable. It's very well lit up. Landscaping is incredible. It's so nice just to be able to, lunch, get out, walk that area, go to lunch. Super easy to do. All the feedback we've received has been very positive, so we are extremely pleased with how this turned out. And like I said, we're about to start the next phase. And, in this video, you can kind of see where 4th Street stopped with that asphalt paving. We'll take that down to Avenue A and shift it both ways.
What will be the estimated timeline on that?
We expect to have those comments addressed here by the end of this month and sent back. So the real question is going to be timing with the holidays. What we've experienced a lot in the past is when we advertise a project, Thanksgiving and Christmas, the attitudes aren't quite as nice as if you do it at the beginning of the year. So there is some strategic play in that. So we'll have to kind of look at when that's done, when we want to advertise it, just to make sure we get the best price.
Do you have an estimate on how long it will take to construct?
Yeah, we should be, it's going to be a pretty quick project. It should be about 6 or 7 months. Because we just, the issue with all the downtown stuff is obviously we got lots of traffic, and that's great. So we got to work around that. But we, 6 months and we should be able to get all that back in. There is quite a bit. We have some utility work to do, some drainage work to do. Fortunately for this section, it's really the only section in the downtown area where we have an opportunity to take drainage underground. And so we're taking advantage of that. There's a couple of areas that we have some drainage issues. So we're gonna be able to correct those and get those tied into some underground drainage.
You know, David, I mean, I hear you about when the bidding is for the downtown businesses, it'll be impacted. The one thing I'll say is slowest times of the year are gonna be January and February, right? So it'd be awesome if we could be,
Going in January.
yeah, exactly. Just because I think it'll have, or not minimal, less, significantly less. But I understand what you're saying too. So I guess just provide that feedback and take it into account.
No, I appreciate that. And we do have a pretty good plan on how to keep everything open. Fortunately, we got 4th Street as far as it is,
Yeah.
the 5th Street garage is open, which gives us parking areas. And I think we have a good plan on it so that we can continue to keep people downtown and at those businesses and moving around.
Yeah,
Our 3rd Street pedestrian facilities and landscaping, this is a project that's on a TxDOT facility. We call it 3rd Street, they call it Spur 290. But if you recall, this is our safe pedestrian access from downtown over the BNSF tracks. We do have some pedestrian elements in that so that we've got, as we've done on most of our projects, an expanded pedestrian section as well as landscaping, make that a really nice access to downtown and to the south side of downtown over the tracks. We do have our Avenue E project in this as well, which is very important because it facilitates and helps the current TIC construction that's going on Avenue E. And these are some renderings of what Bobby and his team have going on over there with the School Nutrition Center. This one is, like I said, with TxDOT, and that does tend to slow things down a little bit. We've addressed all TxDOT's comments and have sent those back. The environmental, it has to go through TxDOT as well, so that's a little heavier process. We actually have a meeting with them tomorrow. They signed a new project manager, so I don't hope we're not completely starting over with them. And it's been assigned for the construction as well as environmental. So we're dealing with 2 brand new people. That meeting's gonna happen tomorrow, so I will be able to give you an update in December on what they tell us. And I know we're also waiting on funding on this one. But the good news is we did get comments back from the previous team and we've addressed all those and sent those back to TxDOT. Our South Temple transmission main, if you recall, last board meeting, we completed A1. And at that time, we took it with a budget to council. Just as an overall perspective on this one, A1, like I said, has been bid, gone before this board, gone before council, and has been awarded. So that one is moving forward. C is complete. So that one is done as well. A3 and A4 on this section are 100% in design, and A2 will be completed in design by the end of the year. And then all of the B section is currently in design and moving forward. So we're making really good progress on this South Temple transmission. Just as a recap, A1 came before this board last month. And then it actually was awarded to B Corp. This is one that we had incredible bids on. It was a really clean project. If you recall, we had 15 bidders. Our budget was 5.4 million and we got it for 3.3. So great savings, great project. It went to council on the 16th of October. It was approved, and so that project is going to start moving forward. We do have an agenda item 3 today for consideration for this board, for council, for construction phase services. The other project that came forward last month for construction contract was Veterans Memorial Boulevard. This is the one that goes from the Temple College Apartments to and through Avenue U. And this one again was bid through TxDOT. We do have an agenda item for this one as well. It's agenda item 4 for construction phase services. Just as a recap, our budget was 8.37, and this board and council approved the contract for TTG for 7.75. So again, under budget, we're really excited about that. We still have some dry utilities that have to be relocated for this project. Last report was they would be done late December. And so we expect this project to begin first part of 2026, and it is a 14-month project. And so we're looking February 2027 for completion. Adjacent to that, our Friars Creek Detention Pond project, we got some good news on this. If you recall, this is the one that will help our stormwater for Friars Creek in this area, Fifth Street. There's just kind of a CAD rendering of what that's gonna look like to give you an idea of what the geometry of the detention pond itself will be. Fifth Street is to your right, and of course, you can see the opening for the detention pond for the release into Friars Creek to your left. So TCEQ, we finally worked through everything and they have approved the project. We're hoping to start advertising this for bid in November. We still have 2 dry utilities that we've been working with for about 18 months that are still working on relocation. It's Communication and Encore. We have been almost weekly pinging them on those relocations, but we understand they're gonna be done very quickly. And so we're hoping to go to advertise in November.
I guess in the timing of that first phase and this one, you have to have. I mean, how fast do you have to get this one released in order to activate the first phase of?
Veterans?
Yeah.
They do tie into each other because we have to increase the size of the box culvert on Fifth Street, which is also part of our detour on Veterans Memorial. But we have those 2 coordinated so that we can make it work. The pond itself is, they're not dependent on it, so we can do that box culvert at any time in this project. So that's the good news. Whether we do it at the beginning or whether we do it at the end, say, for example, if we left it till the very end and then did it at the end after the pond was built, we're still releasing that same amount of water to the channel that's feeding Friars Creek. And so we've got that sequence so that those two can marry up.
Got it.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's all I have for you today. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, David. Anybody have any questions? Okay, let's move to item number 3, which consider recommendation to City Council to authorize contract amendment number 1 to professional services agreement with Casper Patrick Associates LP for the construction phase services for South Temple Transmission Line WTP to GST/PS Line A project and estimate. It sounds just like an engineering name there. Line A project, an estimated amount of $197,370. Motion to consider?
Motion.
Good motion.
Second.
Second. Further discussion? Not all in favor, please say aye. Opposed, same sign. Item number 4, consider recommendation City Council authorizing contract amendment number 3 to a professional services agreement with Casper Patrick Associates LP Temple for added construction phase services relating to the construction of the Veterans Memorial Boulevard Phase 1 project, an estimated amount of $541,700. Motion, second? Second. Any discussion? Not all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Y'all very much. Thank you for your good work. Dave and your day. The next item is a project update from Temple Economic Development Corporation, and Adrian, we're glad to have you here this morning.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. Good to be before you all. It's been a busy year, and I think the fruits of all of our labor are now coming into season and ripening up. Just as a note of a quick update, this past year, we contractually committed about $2 billion investment into our industrial parks, which is quite significant. To put that into context, if you look going back 4 years prior, in total, we've contractually committed about $2.6 billion in the prior 4 years. So in this 1 year, we're at about $2 billion. As we roll into the next fiscal year, we're already very busy. These projects, as you all know, have long lead times, negotiation and discussion and due diligence. But as we're getting prepared for the next fiscal year, we're very close. We feel like we have line of sight to about $1 billion, $800 million to $1 billion of investment that we are in current active negotiation on various projects, a number of different projects. So very significant for the community, for the county, for this board. So I know all those revenues drive into making our community great. You know, as we take a look back, and I'll have an annual report next couple of months, we move into December and January. That'll be offering to the city as well as this board. But as we think about these last 12 months, with all that's going on, sometimes political challenges and the economic challenges around the globe and in our community, we wonder what it looks like. I can tell you for the state of Texas, for Temple, we're still got a lot of opportunity on the table. Governor Abbott is doubling down on his FDI, his foreign direct investment and recruitment opportunities. I think next year we'll see a pretty aggressive calendar from him going globally to different markets. Korea has been a big market for the United States, has been a big market for Texas, and big market for Temple. Bringing in Seya, who is well underway with their manufacturing facility, their alloy manufacturing facility. They're in our industrial park. We anticipate that will open around May, June timeframe. They just had a hard hat tour and they invited members of the community to take a look at what's going on there, and they're making really, really strong, really good progress. To that end, as we take a look at Asia and the Korean market, the Taiwanese market, Mayor actually had an opportunity to join us, a small Temple delegation that went over to Asia. And you can speak to him after the board meeting if you want to hear his feedback directly. But the feedback we heard from those companies were, we are interested in the US and we love what you're saying about Texas, and Temple seems very interesting to us. Just a point of note, we made that trip, leave in July, Mayor, made that trip in July, and this never happens in economic development, but within 2 weeks, we had 2 site visits from Korean companies into our community, bringing their folks over here to evaluate and investigate. So I think the opportunity is right. I believe they've announced 550 billion or so of investment they intend on putting in the US. And we want to grab our fair share, if you will, here in Temple, Texas. All is looking good right now as far as project activity. The 2 industries that we're seeing most activity on, food and beverage, which makes a lot of sense with Walmart distribution and HEB distribution there in our community. And people continue to eat, and they'll continue to eat as we go forward. So food and beverage is a growth opportunity for us. We're having a target industry analysis in process right now, being done by a third-party consultant group. And it's telling us, you know, number 1 on our list ought to be food and beverage. And so we're seeing that we're going to probably spend some more time in that industry as we go forward. Computer and components manufacturing is also something that's shown up very early in that target industry analysis in the draft report. And as we think about computers, you know, data centers obviously has been underscored most recently with the Rowan announcement. Meta continues to finish up their facility. And I think we continue as we look at Eastville County and all the activity out there, and all of you are hearing about what's happening in Gerald and Salado and Austin area. I think we're going to continue to field interest from those types of companies in that space for hyperscale data centers. So that's a little bit of a report about what's going on. We really appreciate, as always, those of you who participate in the economic development process, which is all of you. When you sit around this board, you make decisions on where the investment is being made in our community, whether it's on a quality of life standpoint in downtown, whether it's actually in the core of our industrial park. It all helps sell Temple and prepare us for the success that we see going forward. So I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Just real quick on those data centers, can you just touch on, I think, how fast the technology is moving? I think even when we started looking at this, you know, a while back, there was a big water need for those things, and the technology has progressed to where the stress on city utilities is not what it used to be.
Yeah, that's a great thought, and thank you for that prompt. You know, what we're seeing in hyperscale. So first of all, the technology, we actually had an opportunity to work with a company or visit with a company that's in that space of server technology and what they do there. They're talking about every 2 years, every 2 to 3 years, the servers that they had built for the current year's hyperscale data centers, the technology's been totally flipped. And so these data centers are getting more dense, you're more computing power within a smaller area of space, manufacturing space or production space, and housing space. And with that has come reduction in technology that reduces the impact on the environment, to include water. So when we first started working in this industry and visiting with folks in this industry, we're talking in the millions of gallons a day that some of these hyperscale data centers we're looking at, and now we're at a fraction. I mean, some of the more recent conversations that we've had, suggests that they'll bring in maybe 1 million gallons into the facility and they will not recharge that 1 million gallons for another 5 to 7 to 10 years. So they're recycling that water. They've gotten that efficient with it. So I know that Mayor and I have talked about talking points. I've shared some talking points with him, but really efficiency on these data centers have just really developed at a really high level. I think the other thing, and I'll just address it here with this group, the other part outside of water, Mr. Johnson, comes electricity. Like, what about the electricity? What about the grid? And the thing that I've shared with our board, our executive board, and I'll share with you all is electricity is a lot like water in this respect. The electricity that is available in Temple is not just Temple's. And so as we think about economic development opportunities, if we do not use the available electricity on the grid to support Temple's economic development group, then Waco will, Hutto will, Pflugerville will, South Dallas will, and guess what? That is less power that we have for economic development growth. So we're in a shared system on the grid. And so from our standpoint and our view is take that available capacity and use it for the benefit of Temple to drive revenues and tax dollars into our.
Yeah, thanks. It seems like some of these, there's some articles that have been posted in Wall Street Journal and others about that are fairly negative about the utility usage and some of the stuff. I think it's not correct information.
That's right.
And
It's all
so,
technology.
well, the old technology and the stuff that, you know, that is doing, that you said that they were finishing up their campus north and all that stuff. It's the newest cutting edge stuff that doesn't have the same effect on City of Temple as people may think it does.
Absolutely. And on the electricity side, I will say in fairness to some of those articles that some may have seen across the nation, there are areas of the nation that are regulated environments, which means the power that's produced in that area is going to that area, right? We don't have that environment in the state of Texas. We are deregulated, which means the electrons that are produced here in Temple are shooting all over the state. So we're in a shared environment, which makes a difference, less impact.
Thank you.
We did a town hall meeting last night. And we talked about the water use for data centers. And David did a quick calculation while, on the fly, or while we were speaking. And those, the cooling technology that allows that one time, $1.5 million charge, that ends up equating to about 400 gallons or so, David, per day. Once you divide, do all the math, it ends up to be about 400 gallons per day, and the average home uses about 350 gallons a day. So technology is down to the point where it's almost like
Negligible.
like a home for a multi-million-dollar data center. Which that's
$1 billion.
yeah,
Yes,
sorry.
sir.
Yeah. So I just, to me, that sort of puts everything in perspective. Yes, years ago it was you got to be prepared. Worst case scenario for 1.5 million gallons a day. During the hottest part of the year if they need it. And now we're down to homeowner type usage for, certain technologies. So
Yeah, that's
rapidly changing. And the info that's out there, we were dealing with a resident last night that had probably 10-year-old data. It seemed like a lot as far as, and that people just have no idea. It doesn't take 5 minutes to go out on the YouTube or Facebook and find videos about data centers and the horrible negative impact. And that around the water resource particularly, that just simply isn't true.
And again, economic drivers, we of course know the impact from a tax revenue standpoint, but sales taxes is part of, for property tax, excuse me. The sales taxes are absolutely part of that. Franchise tax is absolutely part of that. Cities in the franchise agreement, electric utility, that's millions of dollars. And the jobs. Listen, you take a look at, for instance, Meta's campus that they're currently finishing up construction on. They announced 100 jobs at that facility. They'll have a 2-to-1 ratio of full-time contract jobs at that facility for every job that they have. So you're really looking at a 300 job campus. That's on par with some of our larger employers in our industrial park with a multi-billion-dollar impact. And those wages are 90 to 100,000 average. Those are the kinds of jobs, those kinds of impact that we will see out of those projects.
So Adrian, that 200 contractors, that's not like the drag along vendors, right? Isn't there like a 3-to-1 vendor count?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the vendor count is, but those are just operators within the data set.
Thank you for a great update. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay, next item, receive an update from the city manager. I'd ask Brandon, she will give us an overview of the budget that we just adopted. And, I know the city does we work on the budget all year, basically.
Feels like it.
Yeah,
Yes.
so thank you for being
Yeah,
here.
thank you for the opportunity. So you all know this very well, but, Temple is among the fastest growing cities in the nation. This year, we officially breached the 100,000 population metric, and have been ranked the 20th fastest growing city. So we have, a lot of the fruits of Adrian's and y'all's labor, coming to fruition as we see growth in our community and new residents, calling Temple home, which is great to see and does also have an impact on our budget and the services provided for our community. So our total adopted budget for FY 2026, with all funds included, including the reinvestment zone, is just shy of $330 million. A little bit more detail on the general fund. General fund is our major fund. It is, its name is descriptive in that it's the fund that pays for the general operations of the city. So if you think about a city service that is provided, it is probably paid out of the general fund in most circumstances. So this is where police, fire, library, parks, code compliance, all of those areas are funded. It's an unrestricted fund, and so most of city services are paid through this fund. This fund gets its revenue from property tax, which accounts for a little over a quarter of the revenue this year. But the largest source of funding in the general fund is actually sales tax. And then we have a variety of other revenue sources, charges for services for the various programs and services that have a fee associated with them, make up a significant portion of the revenue. Charges for solid waste. Our solid waste department is embedded in the general fund. It's not a separate enterprise fund. And then franchise fees, which are generated from electric and gas utilities.
I have a quick question on that.
Sure.
If you were to look back 5 years ago, what would those percentages be?
Sales tax was higher. It was about a third, about 33%. And we'll talk about that a little bit, the results, what we're seeing, the trend in sales tax. The others were, I would say, similar. I think that we saw some, we will probably see some increase in franchise fees in the future, but those haven't been realized yet. So I would say this percentage breakdown, the main difference is the shift from sales tax.
Okay, thank you.
Which is this slide, actually. So we've had some really great years of sales tax growth in the city of Temple. Really, immediately after the pandemic, somewhat ironically, we in the early days of that, we thought we might have a downward impact on sales tax, but that certainly wasn't true. So the city experienced 3 years of double-digit growth in our sales tax base. So you can see in 2021, we had a 16% increase. In 2022, almost a 15% increase. In 23, a 12% increase. So those are significant percentages and certainly significant dollars that allowed us to lessen our reliance on property tax and use sales tax as a source of providing some of the important services and priorities that had been funded out of the general fund during those time periods. You can see, though, in 2024, that growth curve started to flatten. So hear me, the message is not that sales tax is going down in the city of Temple. That's not true. But the significant growth that has allowed us to absorb a lot of the cost increases and priorities in the general fund has slowed dramatically. 2026 is a budgeted number. Of course, we watch that very closely. That is a very I don't want to use the word volatile, but you know, it is a very market specific revenue source, unlike property tax. So that's what we project at this point. But you can see the last couple of years, we've had a much lower growth curve than we've enjoyed for a few years now.
Do you have an idea of what service, or I mean, what big drivers of the, I mean, is it construction services or is it just spread out?
Okay, what is construction?
Just like we have a diversified economy in terms of our job base and our property tax base, we are also fortunate to have a diversified economy in terms of our sales tax base. Many communities that are heavily rely on retail see they ride waves more than we do because that goes up with consumer confidence and other factors. Certainly, retail sales are a significant component of our sales tax, but we also see sales tax from construction, both residential and industrial. And so just we have a more diversified sales tax base even than some of our peer communities.
Just a curiosity question. I know when Bucky's came in, we had an abatement from a portion of the sales tax. When does that burn off?
It has.
It has, okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Also, grid is April 2026.
Oh, it's okay. So it's this year, I guess,
Okay,
counting forward a few months,
okay. That's where you give a little spike there.
probably.
Yes.
Probably in part. So you can see here a corresponding trend with our property tax rate. So recall here, 2021 was where we started to see some pretty significant growth in sales tax. In 2021, 2022, 2023, those years, we were able to drop the property tax down because we were able to support the needs through that sales tax growth. But as that sales tax growth has began to flatten, the pressure on property tax has increased. So that's why you see that shift from about a third of our general fund budget being supported by sales tax to now around a quarter. The city council adopted a tax rate this year of 69.99 cents. And we'll go over kind of some of the priorities related to from the council that funded. But first, I wanted to give you a little bit of a perspective of how we compare to our peer cities. So these are the cities that we typically look at when we're doing peer city analysis. The reason that we've selected these cities are they are generally proximate in population and they are geographically proximate to us. So we view these as pretty significant competitors for us as we look at not only employee recruitment, but industrial recruitment and all different types of services. So you can see Temple here in the dark blue. Again, our population is just over 100,000. So the first thing I want to draw your attention to is the square miles that we serve. So we have just under 80 square miles. And that's a pretty good size compared to our peer. Really, Waco is the only city that tops us, and the rest, it's a decent spread to the rest of the pack, really. You can see that communities like Round Rock and Cedar Park are very compact, so they're very densely developed. And so what this in particular has an impact on us for is it is a cost driver in that, for example, fire service is a geographic based service. So you need to have, generally speaking, a fire station covers a 1 square mile area. So the more spread out your community is, the more fire stations you would need to have to cover those same number of residents. Same with if you think about not necessarily a general fund impact, but same if you think about water and sewer infrastructure, you have more water lines and wastewater lines to serve the larger geographic footprint of the city. A lot of focus occurs on the tax rate, and there's a lot of variety in that tax rate, but there's a lot of factors that go into to determining what a city can set as a tax rate and support its growth and that or its services. The main thing would be how much property you have to tax. So as you can see, Temple's total net taxable value is a little over 9 billion. In contrast with Round Rock, for example, that's at 25 billion. Cedar Park at 15, Georgetown at just shy of 19. You can see that also reflected in the average homestead value. So of all of the homes in Temple, the average actual taxable value is $208,000, whereas the average taxable value in Round Rock is 376. I'm going to come back to this slide, but I'm going to move forward here. So what that means, I just picked a few cities to drill down here, is that an average resident in Temple, 1 penny for every penny that the city council levies on taxes, that will give $20.83. You'll pay $20.83 to the city for police, fire, all of the services. So assuming our tax rate of $69.99, that is what we have to set to provide because of that average value. Contrast with College Station, whose average homeowner has a taxable value of almost $400,000. So every penny that city sets generates $39.71. So they would only have to set a tax rate of 36 cents to generate the same revenue as our 69.99 cents. So when you get so myopically focused on the tax rate, you really have to look at other factors. Certainly the tax rate is important, but the a person in College Station, if they had a tax rate of 36 cents, would pay the same as a person in Temple with a tax rate of 69 cents. And College Station actually has a tax rate in the 50-cent range. So someone in College Station is actually paying more in city taxes than someone in Temple based on the average home value. And then the other thing that I'll point out going back here is, and let me go to this column here. So this column basically just shows if you take the total taxable value generated, what that and divide it by the population, then this is a per capita taxable value. So you could see Temple's is just shy of 90,000. You could see Colleen is really going through it, but Round Rock, Cedar Park, Georgetown, those communities have a much higher per capita taxable value than the city of Temple. And then the other important, again, we talked about the two main sources of revenue, the other being sales tax. So when you look at the total projected sales tax for these communities, you can see on the far right-hand column, the per capita estimate for what sales tax is generated. Certainly Temple is in a good spot there. We're in a strong position. We're not as high as some of the communities that have more destination retail, like Round Rock and San Marcos, for example. But certainly in and Waco to an extent with the silos and things they've been able to do there with tourism. So certainly in a strong position related to sales tax, but not still in a different position than some of our peers. And then the last thing that I would point out is that 4 of our peer cities, Georgetown, College Station, San Marcos, and Bryan, all have city electric utilities. So that generates revenue for their community in a way that can help them offset some general fund expenses, and that's not an opportunity for us since we don't have a utility here. One thing, I'm sure you all are very familiar with this, that this is I feel like a common misconception. So I wanted to have the ability to demonstrate this a little bit. We freeze taxes for those in our community that are 65 years old and older on their homestead. So what that means is that once you reach 65, assuming you don't move to a new house or do a major addition, you aren't going to pay any more property tax to the city of Temple for the rest of your time here. And I think a lot of people have a misconception that the value of their home is frozen, but when the city changes the tax rate, it means they pay more taxes because it's just the value that's frozen. or they think the tax rate is frozen, but the value is not frozen. So when the appraisal district raises their appraised value, they pay more taxes. But what's actually frozen is the actual tax bill to the resident. So this is just an example resident who turned 65 in 2019. They were paying just over $1,000 a year to the city. And while their value has grown dramatically, and they still just pay $1,000 in taxes. So we offer that as a benefit to the community for those who have reached 65. And that is a program that's provided for and permissive by the state, but it's not a mandatory or required program, and many communities don't offer that. So I just want to point out that that is something that we have here in our community to help protect homeowners who, you know, in many cases have stopped their active working years. And I think it does have an impact on our tax rate, because while the older population doesn't pay more in taxes, that means those who are taxes aren't frozen potentially have to share more in that impact.
Randy, that's this question. The school district tax rate of the 65 freeze is state mandated, correct?
For the school district, I'm not sure honestly if it's a state mandate or not, but I know TISD has a frozen tax rate for 65, not tax rate, a frozen
Dollar amount.
for 65 and older.
Belton ISD does as well. And I think Temple College has adopted that as well, and the county in our community, the 65 freeze.
Yeah, I think it's pretty common in our immediate vicinity, but not necessarily in some of those peers that I showed you. It's not mandatory. I mean, I think it's, and some cities implement well, this will show you like you get an exemption. And so some just do that. We do both. The other impact that I want to point out really quickly is just we as we are fairly proximate to Fort Hood, and I think that provides a lot of value for our community and workforce development. We're certainly very grateful for our veterans and enjoy their citizenship here in our community. But there is an impact. The state has developed a program that exempts disabled veterans from up to 100% of property taxes. And they've also established a program that was intended to make cities and counties whole for that program that they adopted. They established a reimbursement of $9 million a year statewide, and they haven't changed that since they began it. So you can see that this year Temple's impact is about 3.1 million. So that 9 million is statewide. So we alone would be eligible for 3 million of that. Of course, cities, there's a dozen other cities and counties that are also eligible. So what we actually get back is about 15 cents on the dollar. And the state, we've asked them every legislative session to bring that up. They've declined to do that thus far. So assuming that continues, and $9 million is all that is allocated into the future for all of the cities and counties in Texas, we project that impact to rise for us, but the state's reimbursement not to. So that is right now it's about equivalent to 4 cents on the tax rate. But as we see more veterans choosing Temple, that could continue to grow. So the 4 major priorities for the city council this year in the budget were fire, police, fleet, and solid waste. So first, fire, they added 10 new firefighters. This is part of an overall 6-year plan to add 70 firefighters. So a lot of firefighters planned for the community over the next few years. This first priority level is to divide the community into 2 battalion districts, so 2 response districts, one east of 35, one west of 35. And then this also adds some personnel in fire marshal's office. 4 new police officers. 2 of these are for our training program. We have a beautiful new training facility out on Airport Road near Fire Station 8. Love to have you out to tour sometime if you're interested. So 2 of those officers will be assigned out to that facility to help provide our training program for our officers, and then 2 are part of our patrol program as we're about to add 2 additional patrol districts to our community. And then the next priority is fleet, a very significant priority, as you can see reflected from the number of personnel on the screen. And this is really a need that we've identified very painfully through this year. So what we're planning to do here is add a second shift in our fleet department, so that areas like solid waste, those trucks can be serviced in a time when they're not needed on an active route during their collection cycle during the day. So council has authorized us to add a second shift, so that's what we're doing. We believe this will really help us in keeping especially our heavy duty fleet, our solid waste fleet, our fire fleet in great working condition, because we'll be able to do this preventative maintenance needs and any priority repairs in an off cycle when they're at bed. The trucks are at bed essentially, and not while they're needed on the road to collect their routes. And then speaking of routes, we do have 3 additional solid waste routes that will be implemented this year. 2 are residential, so 1 landfill, 1 recycling, and then 1 is a side load commercial route. Speaking a little bit, this is not directly budget related, but I wanted the opportunity to just highlight this for those that I haven't spoken to about this. So just a little bit of orientation. Generally speaking, your optimum range for how many lifts per route that you want to see a solid waste route in is somewhere between 700 and 900. The range is due to things like the density of the route. So if you're driving, if it's a very remote route, you've got a lot of drive time to get out there and get back to the landfill, then you're going to be on the lower end of that lift. If it's a pretty dense neighborhood close to your collection, your landfill point, then you can probably get to that 900. If it's recycling, you're more likely to get to the 900, but because it's lighter load, if it's garbage, it tends to be heavier, so the truck fills up faster and more trips to the landfill result. So that is why there's a 700 to 900 range, but that's what we shoot for. So you can see in 2020, we identified that we were really at the top of that range and needed to add a new route. We did so, we ordered the truck, we got it in, and we implemented it. So 2021, doing pretty good. Growing really fast though in this time period. So we identified the next year, this red line is this blue line is what we knew that we needed based on our growth. So we knew that just based on growth in the community, those 8 routes, we're going to get pretty close back up to that 900, to the top of that range, because we just had more houses to pick up. So council added another route in 2022. But when we ordered this truck, it didn't come. And it didn't come for 3 years. So what we actually had to work with was still 8 routes, because while they funded the route, while they bought the truck, it was not able to be delivered because of supply chain, pandemic related delays. So we actually still only had 8 routes. That occurred in 2023 and 24. You can see the problem just starting to escalate because it would have been well within the optimal range if we had the route, but because we didn't have the route, it was exceeding. And then in 2025, they identified based on growth, we need another route. So after 2022, we ordered 11 trucks. So I didn't get a solid waste truck from November of 2022 to this summer. And that's what caused a lot of our issues related to solid waste collection. But what that's also done is put a strain on our fleet. So those trucks that we did have and were working, we had to work very hard. So that second fleet crew is going to be really helpful to us in getting the fleet back in a stabilized position and being able to continue with the stabilization of the services that we've been working on.
Thank you for calling City of Temple. This is Catherine. How can I help you?
With TTX Connect, reaching Temple City services is a breeze. Just call, text, or tap the app. It's that easy.
So this is a new program that we established this past year. We have a 311 consolidated call center. So anything that you need from the community, you can call these folks, you can text these folks. It is a live person responding back to you. It's not an AI bot. They can help you if you need brush and bulk collection scheduled, if you've got a code compliance issue with concern that you want to address, if you've noticed a pothole somewhere that needs to be addressed, if there's a street light out that needs to be addressed, any type of service request you have can go through this call center. And so we would encourage you to connect with them. One of the things that we hear often, or that I hear often when I'm talking to folks about the budget is, all right, well, you're talking about you need to add 70 new police officers and 35 new, 70 new firefighters and 35 new police officers because of how fast the community is growing. But if the community is growing and you're putting new houses, don't those houses pay taxes? And shouldn't those houses cover the needs for the growth? If you need new firefighters to serve new areas, shouldn't the new taxes from those new homes pay for that? So I just wanted to point out that this year we received about just shy of $3.5 million from new growth. So from new houses, new developments in Temple. But if you look at the expenses that we had, and I just pulled out wage related information and just for police and fire. So this is just wage adjustments, inflationary impacts for just the police and firefighters that we have. No additions. This doesn't put a new police officer on the street, a new firefighter on a truck. It's just compensation and salary adjustment for the police and firefighters that we have. You can see that eats up the new growth and then some very quickly. So new growth alone cannot sustain the city because you have got to add the new resources, but you also have to keep up with the ones that you have, which means increasing costs. Wage inflation is certainly part of that. But another example is I think we bought a fire truck in August of 23, and we bought another fire truck, same type, an engine, in June of 24, so less than a year apart. And the second truck, the same truck, cost 20% more than the one ordered less than a year before. So inflation has had an impact on us. So that's general fund. Again, that's about 44% of the total budget. Of course, the city also has a water and wastewater fund that provides services that provides our water and wastewater services to the community. And then obviously you all are very familiar with the RZ fund. And we have a list of other smaller funds. Essentially though, the general fund is the only unrestricted fund. So every other fund, it really has a specific purpose and the revenue is not available for expenditure on general needs of the community. So an example of that is the Hotel Motel Tax Fund. We've heard a lot about probably the city's Tanglefoot Festival and why we spent money on a music festival. So I just want to highlight that was actually paid for out of the Hotel Motel Fund. The Hotel Motel Fund is a restricted fund. It's primarily the revenue is primarily generated from occupancy tax on hotel night stays in Temple. So the taxes are not paid by you and I, they're paid by people who come and stay in hotels in Temple. Unless for some reason, and you don't need to tell me, you're staying in a hotel in Temple. And then what it can be spent on is very restricted. It can only be spent on things that essentially promote tourism in Temple. So the state has set out a 2-part test to determine if a use is allowed you can use hotel motel tax funds for that use. The first gate is that it has to put heads in beds. So you have to have a reasonable belief that that expenditure is gonna generate additional hotel night stays for your community. If it passes that gate, then it also has to fall into one of these specific night categories. And if it doesn't, you can't use hotel motel funds for it. So, you know, if you were thinking, oh, you could have used that $3 million on a new fire station or a new solid waste truck or fixing Midway or what a number of other priorities that are important. These funds cannot be used for that. They can only be used to generate tourism in our community. And then the water and wastewater fund, obviously another huge, the important fund for our community. It is how we fund the water and wastewater utility. You all know that the city is a regional water provider. We provide retail service for our own community and wholesale service for several smaller surrounding communities. We also have a full wastewater collection and water reclamation plant system. So a lot of focus this year in water and wastewater was on our capital program. We have about a $265 million capital program planned. That includes projects such as the first phase of our ASR system, an expansion to the membrane treatment plant, upgrades at our conventional plant, rehabilitation of our Avenue G ground storage pipes, new elevated storage tank at Barnhart and Little River Road, rehabilitation of the West Park, Nugent water treatment plant, airport and Range Road elevated storage tanks. Some improvements to water and wastewater infrastructure in the Temple Heights area, improvements, additions at of water for Northeast Loop 363, and Hickory Road, Thornton Lane rehabilitation, north of Hatchie rehab, West Adams and 49th Street rehab. Some major wastewater infrastructure projects, including the phase 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the Knob Creek interceptor improvements, which are one of our large main interceptors, the interstate of sewer lines, if you will, the Leon River trunk sewer phase 2 and 3, and then improvements to Troy Lift Station. We also have improvements in West Temple to some trunk lines, Little River trunk sewer in South Temple phase 2 and 3, Boggy Creek trunk sewer lift station in Forest Main, Little Elm trunk sewer lift station in Forest Main, Williamson Creek South trunk sewer, and South Temple trunk sewer lift station and Forest Main design. And then finally, as you all probably recall me talking about over the years, we have a very active program to reduce sanitary sewer overflows in our community. We have, we're nearing the end of our initial assessment where we have gone, if you'll recall, we've gone in basin by basin to do testing on, we've used a variety of methods, smoke testing, dye flood testing, physical inspections. And so this plan starts to implement by basin the improvements to our existing infrastructure that's needed to replace failing lines and to make sure that our sewer system is in good condition and helps to reduce any possibility of overflow into the community. Make sure that that wastewater gets to a reclamation plant for treatment and reuse. So that is a brief update. That's the briefest I can do, Bob.
Great job, great overview. Really well done. Anyone have any questions? I actually have just a question, just kind of a budgeting philosophy and tax rate philosophy, and maybe council, they're always, people are yelling in their ears about tax rate. But, and I didn't realize the percentage of sales tax and property tax were close. And then when sales tax was increasing pretty rapidly over those years, and more in the property tax, and then pressure coming from the state on capping the growth of property tax, then you have to try to claw that back. And when sales tax is unpredictable, does it make more sense to keep the property tax elevated? So when you're having to fund this, like you said, the market adjustments and all this stuff, you've got reserves to help fund that. I'm just it just hit me as if, I mean, I know y'all probably have discussions about all of that stuff, but it's a lot harder to raise back a property tax. And I'm not sure you get credit for lowering it. As much as you get yelled at about raising it. Anyway, just an observation, I guess.
Yes, our 6-year plan, at this point, I don't, unless something dramatic happens with sales tax, I don't see an opportunity for a reduction in property taxes. We have a lot of need. And council, exercised great leadership this year. They were really, they were really, rolled up their sleeves and spent a lot of time with us as we worked through a very challenging budget. I think that the priorities that I showed you there, those 4 major priorities, will help address some really needed areas of the community, and bolster the services that we provide. We still have a lot of work to do, and there's still a lot of priorities that didn't get funded, and I know they recognize that, and we're still working towards solutions for that. In particular, we don't have any additional street, maintenance proposed. That was not one of the priorities you saw reflected there. So that is going to be a pretty significant conversation for us this upcoming year, is how we address other ways to provide funding for city services. In the light of a slowed economy in terms of sales tax growth and pressures on the property tax.
What's the cap, what's the state, what is it, 3% cap or is it 1%?
3.5%.
Yeah, so you almost can't never give up your ground.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there actually was pretty active legislation that kept that at 1%, I think.
Yeah, I thought,
During
yeah.
the special session.
Yeah, the only reason, it got through both chambers, but they were not able to agree on, in the conference committee, neither side, well, the Senate wouldn't give, so the House wouldn't agree to the Senate's version, and so it just died instead of going through.
But it got really close.
But both chambers passed a reduction, and the House's version would have been 1%.
And for me, I appreciate the analysis that's gone into this and the interpretation that's gone into it and the explanation. I hadn't seen this presentation before. The spreadsheets and the analysis that you give to me, it's not justification. It's just analysis of where the numbers come from and what generates the tax increase and that sort of thing is completely justified and very well defined in your explanation. And I think that positive, proactive growth in our community is supported widely at the city, and that you guys do a great job of it. And you got to increase taxes every once in a while to keep up with it. No, very effective. Well done. Thanks.
Brandon, what about the 3.5%, the carryover if you don't use all your 3.5%?
Yeah, right now it still exists for 3 years. You can roll it over. I'm trying to remember if that was eliminated. Yeah, that was eliminated I'm not sure if that was eliminated in the proposal set,
right.
Because I think the message is that it didn't get passed this year, but
It's coming back.
it will continue to be a focus. So that has been a target. Certainly, Senator Bettencourt has been pretty active in opposing the ability to roll that over. So right now we do have that opportunity, but I think that it's every 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's good to point out, if I can get on my soapbox for just 1 minute. State's efforts to eliminate the ability for a city or county to generate income. If you look at your tax bill, you don't see a levy from the state of Texas. They get all their money through sales tax. They haven't had one proposal to reduce the sales tax down from 8.25%. But they sure push on the cities. And that is, that's very frustrating. Then they often run out and they trump how they trumpet how they are working hard to reduce your tax. They're not taking it. They're having no impact on their wallet. $24 billion surplus, and they're funding the veterans exemption at $9 million.
Same thing with the school district.
Right.
Yeah.
Just
Down the local property tax.
so disingenuous, if they would join in the fight, right? Let's everyone take it on the chin. They don't do that, and they sure don't acknowledge it publicly. That's the frustrating part is I don't feel like, I pay property tax hit, and I don't like it any more than the next person. But for them to set something in motion and then blame the local officials is very, very frustrating.
I agree with you completely. It's.
The volunteer local officials.
Right.
Well, no, we don't do this every day. We're just trying to figure out how to build a community. And, you get all this pushback and you put pressure on, on staff. And one point that, made last night is nothing's getting cheaper. A fire truck that's always the example I use, a fire truck 6 years ago that's $800,000 is 1.3 or 4 now. And now you're capping the revenue that we can generate to then pay for that fire truck. It's just, it's really frustrating.
And what did those?
And then Bryn and staff have to figure it out. And then council has to go in and say, oh, that was a good idea. We're not doing it. That was a good idea. We can't do that. So it's here was very challenging.
I know a lot of people yell at you.
That's okay. Doesn't hurt like it used to.
But it's, it's like Mo's talking about it, it's almost like you need to grab those
Mhm.
accumulated 3.5 cents
Right.
as long as you can, because they're likely gonna go away.
Right.
And then
Later,
that
1%
becomes,
more.
that becomes the base,
Yeah.
and you can't ever grab that base back.
But when in doubt, sales tax is important, as we've seen, so
Absolutely.
shop local,
Mhm.
buy your car at Johnson Brothers, go downtown and go to Baker.
I agree to buy your car at Johnson Brothers, but I will say that the state does not give us any sales tax for car fee. So that won't help the city, but
No, they get their.
They do get
They
their
get
piece,
it.
yeah.
They get their piece. We don't get it.
it
So
allows
clearly we
me-
need to eat more
maybe
pizza.
me to.
Yeah.
For the community, yeah.
Start sales tax at the bank, huh, Tyler?
Sure.
That's called influence.
Yeah.
Brent, thank you so much, that was excellent.
That was all I had. Any other questions?
So, yeah, any other questions? If not, we're going to, as we do every year, combine our November and December meeting. And it will be on December the 10th, our next meeting, unless we have something urgent comes up that we need to have a call meeting. And on the 10th is when Tracy will be presenting the annual report. Always a great meeting to just cap up what all's gone for the year, so. Anyway, thank y'all for being here, and